You've seen it in the movies. Shady figures in trench coats and fedoras. You know, they corner an unsuspecting victim in a dark alley, right? And then what they say next is almost cliche. Pay up, Jimmy, or we're going to take out you at the knees, yeah? And the next time they meet Jimmy, they take him out at the knees. This has been the stuff of Hollywood legend for decades. Dirty debts and desperate gamblers and mobsters who will not take no for an answer, but often take something else. And now the story is coming true right across the country in a massive gambling and sports scheme that would leave those mob movies in the dust. The FBI has just arrested a whole spreadsheet of famous people, alleged bad guys, who were caught up in a national gambling scheme that ensnared the mob, the NBA, and a cast of unsuspecting high-stakes gamblers who had no idea they were being had. The sprawling national scam has two distinct parts to it, okay? First, there's the high-stakes poker scams, right out of Molly's game, right? Cheating big spenders who are not afraid to lay big bets. So the syndicate would set up illegal gambling rooms, and then they would use like famous athletes to lure in the rich players and make it look legit, right? And in a moment, I'm gonna name the names, okay? So pour a drink. So the hustlers then built a state-of-the-art X-ray machine that would spy from underneath that poker table, right? So you're seeing the cards face down on the picture at the top there, but look at the picture down below. It's the X-ray of what the cards are, right? The cards are face down, but look at the picture. You can see their poker hands, right? This was what was dealt to the players. Those pictures were then transmitted to someone in the back room who, you know, had computer screens going. So you can read for yourself, flop equals 9 of spades, river equals 10 of clubs, perfect 3 of diamonds. They knew everything. And if that's not bad enough, they rigged massive card shuffling machines. Take a look at this thing. This is what stacked the deck and predicted who got the best hand at poker. Shuffle, 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 but not really. We know exactly who's getting what. They had other stuff too, this high-tech racket. Poker chip trays with electronics inside that could read, and then dummy cell phones that could apparently read cards as well. So in a scheme right out of Ocean's 11, they also did something I'd never heard of before. They drew invisible marks on the backs of the cards that could only be seen by the con artist who was wearing special contact lenses. Can you imagine? Like, these guys were pro. That's the high-tech part of this whole boondoggle. But the low-tech part, that was just filled in by old-school mob tactics involving, get this, 4 of the 5 major New York crime families, which in itself is bewildering because you do not often hear that the Bonanos and the Gambinos and the Lucchese's and the Genovese's all play in the sandbox together. Not well, anyway. Victims who lost big at those tables and then owed big to the swindlers. They faced the goons, the guys in the fedoras in the back alley, you know, who physically made the victims pay up, if you know what I mean. Okay, so that's the poker side of the gambit. Now for the sports side of the scam. The feds say that players and coaches faked injuries and then leaked the inside information on who was going to play and who wasn't going to play. And those involved in the racket would then make millions laying their bets. Let's start with the bold-faced names, okay? Then I'm going to tell you all the bad things that they allegedly did. If you are into sports ball, you're going to recognize these names. Terry Rozier. He's a current guard with the Miami Heat, and he's in his 10th season. That guy is charged with faking injuries so that gamblers could bet on how low his nightly scoring tally was going to be. Because if he ain't playing, his score's low. Police said that more than $200,000 was bet and paid out after one of these schemes. And then there's Chauncey Billups. He's a Hall of Fame player, but now a suspended head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. The cops say that he was enlisted to sit down at those big stakes poker tables in New York City to make the games look, you know, legit. And then there was Damon Jones. Damon spent 12 years in the NBA before retiring back in '09, but he is accused of tipping off the gamblers to inside information while at the same time acting as an unofficial coach for the LA Lakers. Now, get that drink close to you, okay? Because I'm going to get more specific here. They say that he tipped off the mob that a superstar player was injured and wasn't going to play that night. And I know you want me to tell you who that player was. Who's the superstar, Ashleigh? Feds are not naming the superstar, but they say this. LeBron James was too hurt to play at that time. Between the lines? Also, incidentally, Damon Jones spent years playing with LeBron James when they were in Cleveland together. So, damn. Like, holy, yikes. What does it all mean? Where's this going to go? That's when I call in Mark Geragos, right? Renowned criminal defense attorney, co-host of the podcasts Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men. Geragos, did I lay that out according to the way you read the indictments? And if so, is this as massive as it seems to little old me?
Yes, you did. You did not go all Stephen A. Smith, who has a Trump conspiracy theory connected to this as well. But for those who don't know, this investigation, this FBI investigation, has been going on for years, and it started in a very unlikely way, and it actually started in connection with baseball, and it's made its way over to basketball. You have the one thing I would disagree with is I remember the invisible ink on card scam from years ago. The others I had not heard of. So I was the opposite of you, and I knew about the invisible ink, but did not know about the sophisticated card shuffling operation. But boy, if anything will cure you of gambling quick, this would be it.
I think so, and I'm with you. I think there were things in my Cracker Jack box that I could read with glasses, but I just hadn't heard that they'd advanced to contact lenses. That was spooky AF, if you ask me. I want to ask you something that, the feds, as you know, they don't go after cases unless they truly believe they're 99% rock solid convictions. So is this bad? Like, there's a lot of fans out there who are freaking out and hoping that these guys are going to beat the rap. Are they?
Well, look, if you take a look statistically, as you just said, the feds generally win almost virtually every case. It's one of the reasons we talked for months, if not almost a year, about Diddy's case, because that was such a heavy lift and such an outlier. I mean, normally, if there's a federal case, 90-something% end in some kind of a plea. Of the remaining percentage that go to trial, it's rare that anybody ever hears a not guilty in a federal criminal defense case. And there's just so many things against you. So my guess is, if this is like every other federal criminal case, what'll happen is there will be a rush for the prosecutor's door. One of those defendants will roll over, cooperate against somebody else, and that will start a domino effect. That is exactly the playbook that is used in the federal arena, and I have no reason to believe it wouldn't happen here.
Okay, there's one thing that was so ironic in the last 12 hours. One of my producers is a big sports fan and noticed that ESPN was reporting on this story while at the same time they were advertising in the lower part of the screen one of those betting apps. And I'm sort of curious from a legal perspective how complicated this makes things with regard to betting apps and the real close relationship now they have with reporting sports and maybe playing sports.
Well, take a look at, if you will, it's interesting because that was the first thing that I thought of. The amount of money that the betting apps and the betting companies, the gambling, spends in terms of advertising, promotion, everything around pro sports now, this is bound to happen, and it's a natural consequence of all of that money there. You can believe also that if, and it's unlikely just because of the pure percentages, but if somebody makes it to trial, that arguably will be one of the defenses, is that what are you talking about? How are you going to criminalize something and send somebody away, so to speak, when the entire league and the prosperity of the league, and not just this league, but most of sports, is now almost 50% dependent on the revenues from the gambling sites and the gambling apps?
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel good. I'm not a gambler, but I just don't like to see people scammed. I mean, I do a true crime show. I'm all about the victims. I do have a question about what I think is like the world's second oldest profession. You know, cheating at gambling and cheating at sports. This is not going away. Is this cat and mouse game just constantly on the escalation wheel, meaning the criminals are getting better with their contact lenses and the feds are getting better with the way to track them?
Well, that's also a really interesting point. When I started practicing criminal defense law, which has gone on, I hate to say it, almost 5 decades ago, there were actually prosecutions for bookmaking. You actually would walk into the criminal courts building, and there were people who were being prosecuted criminally for bookmaking. That kind of evaporated as these things went offshore. You'll remember, you and I are both unfortunately old enough to remember when the gambling sites were operated offshore. Well, then that evolved into, now they became mainstream, and then they became huge advertisers, and then they became the revenue stream by which they're monetized by all of these leagues. So yes, I just think that part of the inextricable DNA of sports is that anytime you have this kind of a competition at this kind of a level, there is that urge to gamble or bet on it or wager on it, and that's always going to be the case.
I'm calling my cousin, who's a movie director, about this, because I think it's an upgrade to Molly's Game. That was a great movie, but this one has even more bells and whistles. Mark Geragos, thanks so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.